Did you know that working from home as a Pinterest manager was a thing? Maybe you just discovered freelancing as a Pinterest manager and you're really trying to discover, is this something that could work for me? And is this a legitimate way to earn money from home? That's exactly what I'm going to break down for you in today's episode. I'm Emily Vales. I'm a Pinterest marketing expert and coach, and for 5 years now, I've helped business owners and also students increase their traffic and turn it into profit through the power of Pinterest marketing. Over the course of now it's been about 14 months, I have really started to solely focus on helping people start their Pinterest manager business, and I have become so passionate about that. Because when you can change careers, that is totally life-changing. It is a major transformation. And especially with the cost of trade school or going back to college, those are things that are very expensive. But if you can invest in specific skills training, this is an amazing way to not have to invest tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, but invest some money so that you can get the skills you need to offer this service. But of course, when we are looking into something, we need to do our due diligence and also our research to make sure that this is a legitimate thing. And I know you might love Pinterest, which is probably why you're watching this episode, and it almost sounds too good to be true to get paid to work on a platform you love. You might also still be trying to wrap your mind around why somebody would want to pay you to work on Pinterest. So before we break all of this down, I really want to share with you that when you are working as a Pinterest manager, you're actually working as a freelancer. And in case you didn't know, when you are working as a freelancer, you are a contractor. You are not an employee, and you are essentially working on a per job basis. So you're entering into a contract with another business, and you are essentially saying, I will do X, Y, and Z for this amount of money. And some of my projects were one-off projects, meaning that I would just do a strategy call for $297. And once that project was completed, we were essentially ending our working relationship. Other clients that I worked with as a Pinterest manager, I would have retainer packages, and that meant that it was ongoing work. Now, of course, things happen with businesses, and for whatever reason, at different times, they might need to end their contract. And I always tell my students that there is always more clients out there, but these things do happen. The thing that's kind of nice about working as a freelancer, though, is that you're not putting all of your eggs in one basket, so to put it. You can have multiple clients, and I highly recommend having multiple clients. So then if you do have somebody decide to end their contract, you still are making consistent income. And of course, that specific contract or client could be replaced by a new client. So what is really scary, I think, for people who are interested in enrolling in my Pinterest Manager Academy is that this is very different, obviously, than what we are used to as an employee, where we have what feels like job security, but of course, we can be laid off, things can happen, we can be fired, and we can lose that job. So there's security to a certain extent, but working as a freelancer is obviously not as traditional. And I think that when we move away from that traditional workplace environment and working as an employee, it can be a little scary. And I say this not to sound harsh, but to just be honest. A lot of times when I have specifically women who are interested in enrolling in my academy, their spouse goes into protective mode. And of course, they don't want to see their partner or spouse get into something that might not be legitimate and potentially a scam. But the problem is that they're making those assumptions based off of a place of ignorance. And I know that ignorance sounds really harsh, but really the definition of ignorance is lacking knowledge or information about something. So that's why I'm creating this YouTube episode, so that if you are looking into becoming a Pinterest manager, and maybe it's not even your spouse who's wondering the legitimacy, maybe it's you, that you can have peace of mind knowing that freelance work is very legitimate. And you have probably worked with freelancers and maybe you didn't even realize it. So when you're thinking about freelance work, there's so many different types of contract roles. So some of the, I would say, ones that are very comparable to working as a Pinterest manager could be podcast management, social media management, bookkeeping, website designers, graphic designers. These are all things that can be performed per project, working with multiple clients. You're offering that freelance service. So when you're thinking about being a website designer, being a bookkeeper, being a copywriter, being a virtual assistant, those are ones that maybe are more heard of and you feel a different way about it. I think what is a little scary about Pinterest management is that it's a little bit lesser heard of, in my opinion. Think about it. How many Pinterest managers do you know? And I think that is what can be a little bit scary. And then we go into, well, okay, even if this is legitimate, do people actually need to hire a Pinterest manager? How many Pinterest managers does the world need? And once again, I think that we are making assumptions just from that place of lacking knowledge and really understanding what Pinterest does for business owners. Because when you understand the role Pinterest plays for business owners, I think it makes you feel a lot different about it being not only a legitimate service, but being one that's in demand. So when you are thinking about what Pinterest does, Pinterest is a search engine. It's a search and discovery platform. So people go to Pinterest for ideas, inspiration. They have a problem and they're actively looking for a solution. Those solutions can be positioned as a blog post, as a product, as a free download. And guess what? That's what you're receiving when you're using Pinterest as the user, but you might not be thinking about it from the business perspective, and you probably aren't, which is normal. But think about that for the business owner. They're using Pinterest to get eyes on their products, to get eyes on their blog, to get people on their email list. And what does that do for them? That makes them money. And that's what makes Pinterest so powerful. And especially for not just large business owners, Target, Peloton, Lush, big name brands are using Pinterest. But what's really attractive about Pinterest for small businesses is that 97% of searches are unbranded. So when you are working as a Pinterest manager, you'll have business owners come to you and need your services. But let's say you're marketing your own business on your Facebook business page or your Instagram account. One thing that you can do is help business owners see that they need Pinterest and help them get on board with that platform. And I actually find too, a lot of business owners understand what Pinterest does and the potential it could have for their business, but they don't know how to use the platform, so they just haven't gotten started. So I would actually argue that Pinterest is an underutilized platform for business owners because it actually has a lot of nuances and things that make it really unique than other social media platforms. And remember, I said it's a search engine. It's actually not social media. So people go to Pinterest with a different mindset. They're actively looking for that solution. And sometimes they're going to be ready to buy. Sometimes they're just gathering ideas and saving those for later. But actually, I believe it was on Sprout Social, I read that 85% of pinners have reported making a purchase from a pin. That is a huge stat. It also informs buying decisions. So maybe somebody discovers you, and even if they don't buy in that moment, they come back and buy later. It actually encourages people to, if they discover you on Pinterest, to then once they leave the platform, also go to your website. So you can see here that the way business owners are making money on Pinterest is they're getting people to their website. It's a traffic driver. And as a Pinterest manager, it is your job to get those pinners to the business owner's website. So your expertise and your service is very valuable to them. And that's why they would want to hire you. And so when you're thinking about becoming a Pinterest manager, of course it's a very legitimate service, but you do have to ask yourself, am I willing to put in the work? Because when you're starting a business, this is something that requires you first to gather some knowledge and actually educate yourself. You have to learn these skills, right? Now, you might already have a lot of transferable skills, such as if you know how to use Canva, if you can just spell and use proper grammar. That's important with SEO and search engine optimization. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about when I say SEO, don't worry about it. I want to say I've actually been working as a freelancer for 6 years now, but I've focused on Pinterest for 5 years. And it's been something that was very stable for me and sustainable. So even as we added family members and I had babies, I was still working with clients and I was able to navigate that. So I've told people before who are interested in my Pinterest Manager Academy, it's allowed me to expand in seasons where I was able to expand, and there have been seasons where I've needed to contract. And that's the beauty of it, is that when you're working with multiple clients, if you need to back down on your client load, you have that freedom. And so that's been something that has been so beautiful for me as a business owner, is that it allows me to always put the first things first in my life. And being a mom has always been the most important job to me. And that's why I actually started my freelance business. I was actually formerly a teacher, and it wasn't going to financially really help us provide for our family. And it was also going to be taking me away from my daughter. So at the time when I started my business, I actually only had one child, and now I have 3. And it's, like I said, it's been very stable for me. So when you're making that decision, is this right for me? It's one of those things where you have to decide, first of all, do you enjoy Pinterest? Do you like using the platform? Honestly, I did not have any previous marketing experience, business experience, sales experience, but I was willing to learn. And I was very determined to make it work. And I knew that this was a legitimate career and it was going to work if I worked it. And I knew that things would come up. I'd have setbacks, I would experience failures, but it's truly what we do with those failures that defines our success overall. And for me, success overall meant not giving up, making money, helping support my family, and still being at home. And that's exactly what this business has done for me. So when you're thinking about, could this work for me? First of all, just ask yourself, am I even interested in Pinterest, and do I enjoy the platform? That was step number 1 for me. And I had that intuition that I loved Pinterest, and it really intrigued me. I thought, oh, I love Pinterest. To work on the platform would be a dream. But I had no idea what it meant to help business owners and how they were going to make money on the platform. I didn't have to have it all figured out in the beginning. I will say though, I took what felt like the safer route in the beginning, and I actually offered virtual assisting as my freelance service in the beginning, and I learned a lot about what I liked and didn't like. Then I pivoted to social media management. And I knew that if I started to kind of hone in on a specific skill or service, that I could increase my prices because people are willing to pay for that expertise. And I actually did social media management for a year and I did not like it. So once again, going back to alignment and deciding what's in alignment for me in my life. Social media required me to have to post stories daily. I had clients who wanted me to post at specific times and then engage on the post, which that's a normal and good thing to do on social media, but it just didn't serve me and that phase of life and what I needed. I needed true freedom and flexibility and to work when it was convenient for me. And I did not want those time restrictions of having to post at 8 p.m. Eastern time and then stay on Instagram and engage for another 30 minutes. Now, I'm not dissing social media managers or saying that was a terrible, it just didn't work for me, and that's okay. So that's what I'm trying to help you figure out. Is this an alignment for me? And also, of course, like I said, we're figuring out, yes, this is also legitimate. So we're kind of checking through these boxes when you're thinking through, okay, could this work for me? And as I mentioned before, it truly works if you work it, but it can't be one of those things where you dabble. I really believe you have to be all in because it's not easy to start a new career, and that's okay. I think that we're in this time where there's all these very legitimate ways to make money online, and it's amazing. It can also be overwhelming, but then we're also being, given this narrative that if it's not fast and easy and overnight, then, you're doing something wrong. And that's the thing is, gosh, I saw an Instagram reel where it said, I made $2.2 million in 4 months, and maybe she did. And if she did, good job, amazing for her. But it doesn't work that way for everybody. And if it was that easy, everybody would be doing it. So what I want to say is, yes, this is legitimate. Yes, it works. Yes, you can provide for your family or yourself, whatever that goal is, whatever your why is for starting this business. But one thing I find with some of my most successful students inside the Pinterest Manager Academy, they have made up their mind that the pain of staying the same outweighs the pain of change, because it is hard and it can feel painful to expand and step outside your comfort zone and try something new. That can be scary and that can be almost painful. But for me, it was way more painful to think about going back to a job where I was overworked, underpaid, and I would be taken away from my daughter. That was way more painful than the pain of change and having to start a new career. So I think those are some things to take into consideration when you're deciding what you really want to do. So I would love to share more with you. I have lots of different YouTube episodes all about becoming a Pinterest manager. I think that you'll find those really helpful. One is a day in the life of a Pinterest manager. One is, really sharing how to become resourceful, especially if you are wanting to invest, but you don't feel that you have a dollar to your name. I felt that way. Side note, when I started my Pinterest management business, I did not have a job and I had to invest because I knew I had to develop skills that I didn't have. So that YouTube episode about becoming resourceful, I think, is really helpful as well. But I did want to share, I do have a couple of different resources for you that are totally free. So I do have a free live training. It's a little bit long. Sometimes it's over 90 minutes, but it is so incredibly helpful when you are making that decision and deciding, could this be for me? And I really believe by the end of that live training, you will have clarity on, yes, this is for me and this is how I'm going to get started, or no, maybe this isn't for me and now I'm going to find something else. So either way, it's a win-win because it's helping you get closer to where you want to go. I also have a free PDF guide, and it really covers how to make 5K monthly as a Pinterest manager. And once again, it's really going to help you walk through, is this for me and what are the next steps if I do think this is for me. So I hope you found this helpful. And if you have a spouse or a partner or a friend or a family member who is questioning the legitimacy, or maybe you're questioning it, of course you have to do your own research. I hope this is giving you peace of mind knowing that it is completely legitimate work to work as a freelancer. Yes, Pinterest management is a thing. It's not too good to be true, but it does require work. It doesn't fall into your lap. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to put in the work, and that's okay. I promise it's worth it. So I would love to have you share in the comments what questions you have about becoming a Pinterest manager. And I can't wait to see you soon in next week's episode. Bye for now, friends.